Hello, everyone. Today, I'm going to walk you through one of the most important processes on our planet, the carbon cycle. This cycle shows how carbon atoms continuously move between the atmosphere, living organisms, oceans, and the Earth's crust. Here's the big picture. Carbon doesn't stay in one place. It cycles through four major reservoirs: the atmosphere, biosphere, hydrosphere, and geosphere. The arrows you see represent the continuous movement of carbon. Green arrows show natural processes, while the thicker red dashed arrows highlight human influences. Let's start with the atmosphere. Carbon mainly exists here as carbon dioxide. It enters the atmosphere through several ways: respiration by animals and plants, decomposition of dead organisms, volcanic eruptions, and most importantly in recent times, the burning of fossil fuels by humans. The next major step is photosynthesis. Plants on land and phytoplankton in the oceans absorb CO2 from the atmosphere, combine it with water and sunlight, and produce glucose and oxygen. This is how carbon enters the biosphere, the living part of the planet. Without photosynthesis, life as we know it wouldn't exist. Once carbon is in plants, it moves through the food chain. Animals eat plants and other animals, transferring carbon up the chain. Both plants and animals release carbon back into the atmosphere through respiration, basically breathing out CO2. When living things die, decomposers like bacteria and fungi break down the organic matter. This process releases most of the carbon back as CO2, but some carbon remains stored in the soil as organic matter. The oceans play a huge role in the carbon cycle. They act as a massive carbon sink by absorbing CO2 directly from the atmosphere. Marine organisms use dissolved carbon to build shells made of calcium carbonate. When these organisms die, their shells sink to the ocean floor, eventually forming sedimentary rocks. Over millions of years, this carbon gets locked away in the geosphere in limestone, coal, oil, and natural gas. This is called long-term carbon storage. The cycle is completed when volcanoes release this stored carbon back into the atmosphere or through slow weathering of rocks. However, human activities are now disrupting this natural balance. Burning fossil fuels, deforestation, and industrial processes are releasing large amounts of CO2 into the atmosphere much faster than the natural cycle can handle. This extra carbon is the main driver of climate change and ocean acidification. To summarize, carbon continuously cycles between the atmosphere, biosphere, hydrosphere, and geosphere through processes like photosynthesis, respiration, decomposition, and sedimentation. The cycle has been relatively balanced for thousands of years until human activities significantly increased the amount of carbon in the atmosphere. Understanding the carbon cycle is crucial because it helps us see why reducing emissions and protecting forests and oceans matters so much for the future of our planet. Thank you for watching. It is also our pleasure to introduce you with our newly developing indie game.